Well, that happened. This is my 2019 Volkswagen Golf R with about 36,000 miles on it. I bought this car new in June of 2019. A car that, minus this little ding that I did on the bumper and a tiny dent in the back quarter panel, was essentially perfect. So before we look at just how bad the damage actually is, the most important thing is the car did what it was designed to do, and that is absorb the energy from an impact instead of passing that along to the driver. So thankfully, while being a little banged up, everybody was okay. And ultimately, that's the only thing I care about. And while the damage doesn't actually look that bad on the surface, initial estimate, which I think is a bit low, coming in at almost $17,000. Now, to the average person, this is nothing more than a yellow Volkswagen. However, this car is actually pretty special. So in 2019, Volkswagen of America launched the Spectrum program. This allowed dealers to order one Golf R in a special color with 40 colors to choose from. At the end of it, there were 199 Golf Rs in the US that were part of the program. My car, which is Ginster Yellow, is one of only 13 made in this color. A bit of a jarring transition, but a bunch of stuff has come to the surface since that initial shakedown video. Let's see all the damage and all of that, then I'll come back and I'll fill you in on all the good stuff that has happened since the bad stuff that happened. Now, to get a proper read of just how bad this damage is, let's get it up in the air and take a better look. So clearly this back left was the point of impact, all down this rear quarter, smashing several things, wrecking the bumper. This is a module for lane departure right back here. So there's actually kind of four main components. There's this damage on the quarter, which clearly is significant, right? There's a lot of metalwork that's gonna end up having to go in to fixing this rear quarter. Of course, a new bumper, damage to the door that's going to have to be tended to, maybe damage to the hatch. I can't really tell because you can't close the hatch. So this damage back here is far and away the bulk of what labor is going to be. We also have the suspension on this corner too. The wheel at the top is pushed into the shock absorber. The shock absorber is leaking, it's fluid all over the floor. That upper suspension arm looks like the center portion where the bushing is just destroyed. Probably going to need an axle, probably going to need a wheel bearing housing, which means it's going to need a wheel bearing and more, right? That's just kind of what we know. A lot of this stuff, you don't really know how bad it is until you start putting new stuff on and taking measurements and doing a better evaluation. But we do know we need a module, we need all this stuff, which also means we need a radar calibration alignment. That's going to add a ton of cost. We also have airbag deployment. As you can see, the side curtain airbag deployed, the airbag in the seat deployed. This destroys the seat cover, this destroys the foam in the seat, and of course the airbag. With the curtain, you also need to replace the headliner because it completely destroys the headliner too. A lot is gonna go into the interior. But wait, there's more. Because there was airbag deployment, both front seatbelt pyrotechnics fired, which means it's gonna need a new driver front and passenger front seatbelt assembly. Also, whenever there's airbag deployment, you gotta get a new airbag module, which lives way up underneath the center console. Not that big of a deal, but that's just one more module, one more bit of labor that all piles into, again, that like roughly $17,000 estimate, which that's so much money. All right, so you're probably at the point where if this were your car, you would be furious. And while I'm not happy about this, I'd rather not be dealing with it. Ultimately, this is nothing more than a pile of nuts and bolts. But also, if you've noticed, the damage was pretty much contained to the rear of the vehicle. Why am I standing up front next to a bumper cover that is clearly hanging off? Well, that's a great question. And while I'm not mad about what happened to the back, I'm furious about this because this damage is nothing but lazy, neglectful behavior by the tow truck company that towed the car after the incident. Clearly, with the damage of the back, the car really wasn't drivable. Sure, I was able to drive it into the shop, but you're not going to drive it to a body shop on the main road. It's not safe and probably would have caused more damage. So of course, car's got to be towed. Well, this is the result of a tow truck driver that has no idea how to tow a car, doesn't realize that there's a tow hook in the front that in a matter of 4 seconds you can install. This one's not even counter-threaded where you could use the excuse that you couldn't figure out how to get it on. Instead, my assumption is they threw a hook up underneath and ripped the bumper cover off, ripped the core support off, and caused what is probably going to be about $2,000 of damage that was completely unnecessary. Y'all, I'm trying to keep the no-no words to a minimum, because this makes me so mad. If this car were lowered, slammed on the ground, Stancy Boyd, I'm on board. This car is 100% stock ride height. The fact that someone could be so neglectful and lazy, and other words, is why industries have a bad name. So now here I stand before you with a bumper cover hanging off the car, which is going to need to be replaced, a core support which is going to need to be replaced, damage to a headlight, probably the tune of, I don't know, $1,200, fenders that the grommets are ripped out of, causing damage to the fenders. While it's cool that this little booger job that I did on the bumper cover when I did the intercooler is going to get fixed, this extra claim that I'm having to file under my insurance and expense and damage to this car is completely due to neglect. And that is the only part that I'm actually mad about. Okay, I had to stop recording and move the camera because that mad was really starting to get to me, and we don't need that in our life. So what happens now? Where do we go from here? Well, clearly this is a ton of body damage and metalwork and paint and all that that's gonna need to take place. That is not something I do. So really, for the first time in this car's life, it's going to need to go to someone else to do the work on it. The part that I'm thankful for is that it's actually going to my buddy Juan, who's going to be doing the work on this car. Not only do I trust Juan, not only is Juan incredibly talented and skilled and good at what he does, he also creates content. So we might all actually be able to see the progress of this car getting fixed, because if it were just left up to me, I can't go to the body shop every day to film its progress. So I'm super thankful for that. I'll link Juan's Instagram channel. You definitely should follow him, not just to watch the repair on this car, but he creates some really great content. The shop that I'm taking it to is the shop that installed the Oettinger spoiler for me, and they match the paint almost perfect. I'm incredibly thankful that I have my dude in that space that I know is going to do right by the car. So basically it's this. I'm not happy that we're in the situation we're in with the back. I'm furious about the front. I'm pretty much convinced that any special value or collector value this car had is now gone. This is just part of this car's story at this point. It's happened. There's nothing I can do about it. So we're gonna make the best of the situation in the following ways. One, I'm gonna get these rear door handles painted so they actually match the factory yellow. These are the ones we installed with Kessie, so the paint doesn't quite match. Two, our man Paulie D from Shop Dap, when I first got this car, gave me a set of Euro taillights that almost 4 years later we'll finally get to install. There may be other things that come through the orbit throughout this process that end up working to be a positive for me, positive for the car, and positive for the car's story. And what I hope that translates to is some good that can come out of it for you guys. So how long is this gonna take? How much is this gonna end up costing? I don't know. But what happens right now next is that I need to put this bumper cover back on a little bit, and I'm gonna load it up on the trailer and bring it up to the body shop where our man Juan is gonna take care of it. So your thoughts of the car's probably totaled 100% right. When it went to the body shop, they did a bunch of teardown and all that to properly inspect the car. Found way more metal shoved in than you could just see on the surface, and did a pretty thorough job of accounting for basically everything. This is with all the interior trunk trim out, and you can even see that the floor pan has damage to it. When I said that $17,000 was woefully underestimated, it was even more than I thought it would be. Now I'm gonna use round numbers here, so don't call Engineering Explained and have them check my math. Just roll with it, because we're gonna get pretty close. The damage to the back came in at $33,000. Ooh! And that doesn't include the damage to the front, which we'll get to in just a minute. So being totaled, what does that actually mean for us here? Well, this also varies state to state, country to country, so this is just how my situation worked out. Your mileage may in fact very much vary. They valued the car, albeit I think really low, at about $41,000. And I told them I wanted to buy the car back. So to figure out the value or the amount that I could buy the car back for, they took the $41,000. They subtracted the $33,000 in repair and came up to a value, and it was about $6,500 that I was able to buy the car back for, which y'all, I thought was gonna be about triple. So the fact that I could buy this car for $6,500, victory for sure, in my opinion. And then I got a check for the rest. So we have some money to actually fix the car and get it back right. And because I'm gonna be doing a lot of the repairs myself, the mechanical stuff, the interior stuff, we're gonna save a bunch of money. So a victory there. Also, because they totaled the car, The diminished value claim that I would have claimed had they fixed it, out the window. Doesn't apply here because they totaled out the car. So now I do have a car that will have I think it's a reconstructed title once we get it fixed. Now, when it comes to the front damage, I ended up having to file a separate claim with my insurance, which is total, fill in, no word here, but that was the easiest thing to do because y'all know, no tow company is gonna take any responsibility for any damage. The body shop estimated that at about $4,500, maybe it was a little more, maybe about $5,000 to fix. So that actually works out pretty good for me too. I got a check for that amount as well. So I'm gonna fix the front end myself. For now, I'm gonna try to fix the fenders. I'm gonna try to repair the bumper cover, and I'm gonna replace the core support because that whole piece is missing along with the little O-rings where the charge cooler snaps in. So we should be pretty good there and have a little bit of money from the front end damage to put to the back end. Okay, so while this whole situation really sucks, and I would have preferred it never have happened to begin with, it actually seems like we're gonna come out okay, and we might even have a little bit of money to do some cool stuff with this car now that all the collector value that I was trying to retain with this car is completely gone. I feel like I have an excuse to do cool stuff with it. So here's what I'll ask you guys. What should we do to it? Is RS3 swapping it the right move? Maybe a VR6 Turbo is the right move. Maybe something else that I haven't even thought of. You guys, as a collective, are way smarter and way more switched on than I'll ever be. So I'm gonna leave it to you. Let me know. How dope should we make this car? Or should I just put it back together how it was, keep rocking it as a daily, and deal with it that way? There's a lot of really cool things noodling around, but first and foremost, we have to get the interior out so they can fix the body. I gotta fix the suspension, which I probably won't go back with a stock suspension at this point because why not? I've already ordered about $3,500 worth of parts that I absolutely know I need, including seatbelts and headliner and a curtain airbag and some other stuff that goes along with that. Unfortunately, slash fortunately, slash back to unfortunately, we have yet another project car in the fleet, and this one's gonna probably take a while. Even the bodywork's gonna take a bit. So she'll live to see another day. We will be able to see the reconstruction of this car and it brought back to life, cooler than it was when we started. So we're gonna bring it back. With that, stick around for cool Golf R stuff. Unfortunately, it's probably gonna take a while and it's gonna be a minute before we see what actually shakes out. With that, I'm out. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you again next time.